We are looking into yet another claim that The Simpsons predicted the future. In this case,
For over 30 years, The Simpsons has been more than just a cartoon. It's been a crystal ball. From politics to pop culture, this animated family has somehow managed to predict real-life events with eerie accuracy. But when it comes to celebrities, some of those predictions are downright chilling. From career collapses to shocking scandals and even untimely deaths, these moments will make you question whether The Simpsons writers know something the rest of us don't. Today, we're diving into the predictions that came true and the terrifying accuracy behind them. Since its debut in 1989, The Simpsons has become the longest-running American sitcom, satirizing everything from politics to Hollywood gossip. But every so often, something strange happens. An episode from years ago suddenly lines up perfectly with real-life events. Whether it's a subtle joke or a full-blown storyline, these moments have left fans shocked. Today, we'll focus on the celebrity predictions that went from comedy to reality and explore whether they were just wild coincidences or something far more unsettling. The Lady Gaga Super Bowl Stunner. In 2012, The Simpsons aired an episode called Lisa Goes Gaga, where the pop icon herself visits Springfield. It was classic Simpsons satire. Gaga performed wild stunts, wore outrageous costumes, and even floated over the audience in a glittering harness. At the time, it felt like an exaggerated parody of her already over-the-top stage presence. Fast forward to 2017 and the Super Bowl 51 halftime show. Lady Gaga descended from the roof of the stadium, attached to wires, wearing a glittering silver outfit that looked almost identical to her animated counterpart. The resemblance was uncanny, from the staging to her acrobatic mid-air moves. Of course, some might dismiss this as coincidence. After all, Gaga was known for bold entrances. But what's unsettling is how The Simpsons nailed not just the style, but the exact essence of a performance that wouldn't happen for another 5 years. It was one of the lighter predictions, but it set the stage for something bigger. Moments where art stopped being just parody and started feeling prophetic. The Britney Spears Breakdown. In a 2000 episode titled The Mansion Family, The Simpsons took a jab at celebrity culture by featuring a cartoon version of Britney Spears. In the episode, she's portrayed as overly cheerful but clearly under intense pressure, flashing a forced smile while teetering on the edge of an emotional collapse. At the time, Britney was still in her early 20s, riding the wave of her massive pop success. The idea of a breakdown seemed absurd. She was America's pop princess. But just 7 years later, the world watched as Britney experienced a very public and very real mental health crisis. The head-shaving incident, the paparazzi clashes, and the court-ordered conservatorship mirrored the underlying themes the episode had joked about: a young star under the crushing weight of fame. What makes this prediction chilling is how the show captured the tone of her future struggles. It wasn't about a single act, but the portrayal of a celebrity's smiling mask hiding deep turmoil. It was as if the writers had a crystal-clear understanding of what the relentless pressure of fame could do to someone. And in Britney's case, they were tragically right. The episode's humor felt harmless in 2000. Watching it now, with the benefit of hindsight, it feels almost too on the nose, like a warning no one took seriously. And Britney's story is far from unique in The Simpsons prophecy file. If they could seemingly predict the unraveling of one of pop's biggest stars, what else had they quietly foreshadowed? Robin Williams' tragic farewell. In a 1991 episode, The Simpsons didn't feature Robin Williams directly, but they aired a storyline eerily tied to one of his later career moments, and his tragic passing. The episode revolved around a beloved comedic figure whose public image masked deep personal pain. a character arc that hit far too close to reality decades later. Fast forward to 2014, and the world was stunned by the news of Robin Williams' death. Known for his infectious energy and improvisational genius, Williams had battled depression and health issues in private. The idea of a man who brought so much joy to millions struggling silently behind the scenes was heartbreaking, and it mirrored the tone The Simpsons had portrayed years earlier. Even more unsettling was the fact that the show often highlighted how quickly the entertainment industry moves on from its icons. In one scene, the fictional comedian's legacy is reduced to a fleeting news segment, a sobering commentary that echoed how fans felt about the rapid news cycle surrounding Williams' passing. It's easy to chalk this up to coincidence. After all, Hollywood has its share of tragic endings. But The Simpsons seemed to understand, long before it happened, the bittersweet truth about celebrity life. The higher the pedestal, the lonelier the fall. This wasn't the first time the show's satirical predictions about fame's darker side proved hauntingly accurate, and it wouldn't be the last. Michael Jackson's posthumous scandal. In 1991, The Simpsons aired an episode titled Stark Raving Dad, in which a character claiming to be Michael Jackson befriends Homer in a psychiatric institution. The episode itself was lighthearted, centering on kindness and acceptance. But years later, it would become one of the most talked about and controversial episodes in the show's history. After Michael Jackson's death in 2009, decades-old allegations about his personal life resurfaced with new intensity. By 2019, following the release of the documentary Leaving Neverland, the cultural conversation around Jackson shifted dramatically. It was then that The Simpsons creators made the unprecedented decision to pull Stark Raving Dad from circulation entirely, distancing the show from the late pop star. What's chilling is that, in hindsight, the episode's setup feels like an eerie nod to the public's complicated relationship with Jackson, a mix of adoration, myth, and suspicion. Even though the storyline was written years before the major scandals, it captured the strange duality of his legacy. A man celebrated for his talent, yet shadowed by controversy. In a way, The Simpsons didn't just predict events. They foreshadowed the uncomfortable reckoning the world would face years later. It's a reminder that sometimes the show's predictions aren't about specifics, but about sensing the deeper truths in celebrity culture, long before they fully surface. And if that wasn't unsettling enough, another prediction involving an entirely different star would prove even more haunting. Because it didn't just touch on scandal, it eerily mirrored the circumstances of a celebrity's final moments. Kobe Bryant's fatal helicopter scene. In a 2017 episode of The Simpsons, there's a brief but shocking visual. A cartoon Kobe Bryant, animated in his Lakers gear, is shown trapped in a helicopter as smoke pours out. At the time, it passed as just another blink-and-you-miss-it gag in the show's vast library of cultural references. But 3 years later, in January 2020, reality would echo that scene in the most tragic way imaginable. The real Kobe Bryant, along with his daughter Gianna and 7 others, died in a helicopter crash in Calabasas, California. The suddenness of his death shook the sports world and beyond. Fans were devastated. Kobe wasn't just an athlete. He was an icon, a mentor, a father whose post-NBA career was blossoming. The eerie similarity between the Simpsons scene and the real-life tragedy sparked a flood of online speculation. Was it just a morbid coincidence? Or had the show's writers, known for their razor-sharp cultural insight, unknowingly tapped into a moment that would later feel prophetic? What makes this prediction especially unsettling is how specific it was. It wasn't a generic sports joke, nor a vague reference to celebrity mishaps. It was a visual that, in retrospect, mirrored the very scenario of his passing. While most people chalk it up to coincidence, it's hard to ignore how often The Simpsons has sketched out scenarios that seem impossibly close to reality. And when it involves the loss of a figure as beloved as Kobe Bryant, the eerie nature of the show's predictions feels amplified. But Kobe's case isn't the only time The Simpsons seem to foresee tragedy. There's another example, one tied to a music legend, where the lines between satire and reality blur in ways that leave fans deeply unsettled. Prince's mysterious end. Prince was no stranger to The Simpsons. The show referenced him more than once, usually poking fun at his eccentric style, elusive nature, and air of mystique. In one episode concept, which never officially aired but was written and circulated in production notes, the plot revolved around a version of Prince visiting Springfield, only to be surrounded by rumors and secrecy. The jokes focused on his reclusive behavior, the odd rules around interacting with him, and his carefully guarded personal life. Years later, when news broke of Prince's sudden death in 2016 at his Paisley Park estate, many fans couldn't help but connect it to those Simpsons portrayals. The real-life circumstances of his passing, a combination of mystery, private struggles, and a setting that seemed almost like a stage, echoed the themes the writers had been playing with years earlier. Even more unsettling was how The Simpsons had, in its satire, hinted at a truth Hollywood insiders already knew: that the lives of megastars are often far lonelier and more complicated than they appear. Prince's real story revealed prescription drug struggles and isolation, details that aligned uncomfortably well with the show's exaggerated caricature. This wasn't a prediction in the sense of forecasting an exact event. Instead, it was an almost surgical dissection of a celebrity's trajectory, one that tragically ended too soon. That's what makes some Simpsons predictions so unnerving. They aren't random guesses, but sharp readings of patterns that more often than not play out in real life. And while these portrayals of Prince now feel eerily prescient, there's one final celebrity case that The Simpsons seem to foreshadow. And it's the most disturbing of all because it revolves around a sudden and violent end. The Paul Walker Parallel. In one lesser-known Simpsons episode from the early 2000s, there's a quick gag involving a fictional action star. The character, drawn with sandy blonde hair and a boyish smile, races through the streets in a sleek sports car, only for the scene to end abruptly in a fiery crash. At the time, it was simply another send-up of Hollywood's obsession with fast cars and daredevil stunts. Nobody thought twice about it. But in 2013, reality caught up in a horrifying way. Actor Paul Walker, best known for the Fast and Furious franchise, died in a high-speed car crash when the Porsche he was riding in lost control and exploded. The similarities between the gag and the real tragedy were chilling. Not just the crash itself, but the eerie resemblance of the character to Walker's appearance and public persona. Fans who revisited the episode after Walker's death couldn't believe how close the animated moment felt to the real-life event. It was the kind of Simpsons prediction that makes you uneasy, not because it seems supernatural, but because it's so specific that you can't help but question the odds. Some might argue it was pure coincidence. The show has lampooned hundreds of Hollywood archetypes, and car crashes are a staple of action movie satire. But, in the context of the show's long history of accidental predictions, the Paul Walker parallel became yet another entry on a list that keeps growing and keeps raising eyebrows. And as strange as these moments are, perhaps the most unsettling thing isn't any one prediction in isolation, but the pattern they form when you step back. By now, the list of Simpsons predictions that have come true is long enough to make even the most skeptical viewer pause. Lady Gaga's halftime show, Britney Spears' public breakdown, Robin Williams' tragic passing, Michael Jackson's posthumous scandal, Kobe Bryant's helicopter crash, Prince's mysterious end, and Paul Walker's fatal accident. Each one on its own might be dismissed as chance, but together they form a pattern that feels almost deliberate. The simplest explanation is that the show's writers are incredibly skilled observers of human behavior and pop culture trends. They work with a deep understanding of celebrity archetypes, industry cycles, and the way fame can magnify personal vulnerabilities. If you know the rules of the game, maybe it's not so hard to guess the next moves, even if those moves turn out to be devastatingly real. Another possibility is statistical inevitability. The Simpsons has produced more than 700 episodes, packed with jokes, gags, and cultural references. In a sea that big, a few predictions are bound to come true purely by chance. And yet, the uncanny accuracy and emotional weight of certain examples make them harder to shrug off as random. Then there's the more unsettling idea that The Simpsons has, in some way, shaped the very culture it's predicting. A joke today can plant an image in the public mind, which can subtly influence reality years later. Art imitating life, and then life imitating art. Whatever the explanation, one thing is certain. These moments hit differently when they involve real people whose lives and legacies we care about. They make us wonder how much of what we see in satire is fiction, and how much is a glimpse of what's to come. Whether you believe these Simpsons moments are pure coincidence, calculated insight, or something stranger, one thing is clear. They've captured the public imagination like few other TV shows ever have. It's one thing for a comedy to lampoon politics or poke fun at celebrity culture. It's another for its punchlines to echo so perfectly and sometimes so tragically in real life. When we laugh at these gags, we rarely think about them years down the line. But when life catches up to fiction, that laughter turns uneasy. We're left replaying those scenes, frame by frame, and wondering, how could they have known? Maybe the truth is that they didn't know at all. Maybe The Simpsons is just a mirror held up to society, reflecting patterns we'd rather ignore. And maybe that mirror is so sharp, so brutally honest, that when the inevitable happens, it feels like prophecy. Whatever the case, these celebrity predictions remind us that fame is fragile, life is unpredictable, and the line between satire and reality is thinner than we think. So the next time you watch an episode and see a wild gag about your favorite celebrity, you might want to pay closer attention. Which Simpsons prediction still haunts you the most? Let us know in the comments. And if you love deep dives into pop culture's strangest moments, don't forget to subscribe for more.